Hello and welcome to episode number 71 of the Know Your Physio podcast. I'm your host, Andrés Preschel, helping you discover your science to optimize your life. And today's guest, really today's co-host, is Alex Shinkarovsky, a good friend of mine, fellow entrepreneur and wellness coach. And today's episode is a Q&A style episode where I answer some of the most pressing questions that you guys had for me. They submitted over Instagram DMs or directly through our KYP Gentlemen's WhatsApp community and Discord, which, by the way, for those of you who are interested in joining a community of like-minded people who enjoy applying science to improve quality of life, relationships, fitness, habits for longevity, etc., please let us know. Submit a DM via Instagram, either through the Know Your Physio Instagram page or my personal Instagram page, or you can send us an email at info@knowyourphysio.org expressing interest. We'd be more than happy to accommodate you to either the KYP Gentlemen's chat or the KYP Ladies chat. So you can engage with like-minded folks, get access to some of the best and latest information, and be a part of our community. So thank you guys for submitting questions, and thank you for the incredible feedback. It's so amazing to see the community that is coming together with this podcast. And for those of you who don't already know, this year was a huge year for the podcast across all platforms. And even on Spotify Wrapped, we made it to the top 5% most shared podcasts. And globally, we're ranked as a top 5% podcast across all platforms, across all categories, out of nearly 3 million shows, which is crazy to even, I just can't even believe I'm saying that, let alone seeing it on my Spotify Wrapped. That was absolutely amazing. And that wouldn't be the case if it weren't for you guys giving me your feedback, engaging with the show, engaging online, submitting questions, suggesting topics and guests. So thank you guys so much. If you found this podcast helpful, it would mean the world to me if you could leave an honest review. Just leave an honest review, and I can assure you that it'll help get this information, these conversations in the hands of more people like yourself. So if you found this helpful, I'm sure someone like you, or maybe someone that's not like you, can find this helpful. So if you could leave me an honest review, it would mean the absolute world. So thank you in advance. Now, this episode, like I said, is a Q&A. I cover a bunch of topics that I haven't previously covered, such as approaching and building connections with prospective mentors, people that you look up to, that you want to build relationships with, how I've done that, what I recommend, what you can do. We've talked about some of the biggest lessons that I've learned from some of my podcast guests, and just general substance from previous episodes that has been super constructive for me. The impact of storytelling in business, and in personal life, how to get into your Goggins mode, like Dave Goggins, just going all out on either your passion project or your career or both. Some of the best fitness advice that I have after experimenting with a little bit of everything over the past few years and getting my education, my background in exercise physiology. Let's see, what else is in there? How to approach high-profile people, whether that's mentors or someone in your field that you want to learn directly from or interview. The presence of family in my life and what I learned from my grandfather about longevity. The difference between lifespan and health span. How to encourage and motivate the people in your inner circles who are comfortable enough to tell you to shut up and leave them alone, such as your parents, as is the case with me. So my parents are tuning in. I love you guys, and thank you for listening to me. The shift that I've made with my clothing from polyester to only cotton and the brands I recommend. I'm not affiliated with the brands. This is not a sponsored episode in that sense, but definitely some good advice there. Debunking some biohacking myths around cold and heat exposure, oral health, eyewear, hair growth, workout intensity, sun exposure. We talk a little bit about Alex's up-and-coming podcast as well. He's had a chance to collaborate with some amazing leaders in the wellness space. He's got some real hands-on experience in the space as well. And so I really look forward to being a guest on his show and to tuning into his episodes and seeing who he has on. And man, there's a ton of stuff that's sprinkled in here So just be prepared because there are a lot of really silly moments. We have a lot of fun on this episode. You'll get a chance to see a side of me that maybe you haven't previously seen on other episodes with, scientific guests and such. So yeah, really fun episode. Again, thank you all for tuning in to the Know Your Physio podcast. We have some incredible stuff coming together for this new year. I really think that we're just getting started. And I'm not just saying that. I know that's something that very ambitious people tend to say, but genuinely, I really feel like we haven't pulled the trigger on a lot of things, and we're excited to finally pull the trigger to get this podcast and our platform to really, truly grow. And yeah, thank you guys again for everything and for being such amazing listeners, for being such amazing followers and giving me good feedback, making recommendations, leaving your comments. I really can't thank you enough. So let's go ahead and jump right into the show, and I will see you on the other side.
Yeah. So here we go, Andrés. Episode 71, our Q&A, where you're kind of back on the hot seat. Lots of questions from the KYP community and friends and family.
Awesome.
So let's do it. We're going to range from personal to silly to science to life. So
as long as most of them are silly, I'm good.
Okay, I've got a lot of silly.
Why don't we start with a silly question?
Okay. Sleeping on the floor. Are you about it or are you not about it?
So,
and what's the science, if you have any?
So I think a lot of the people tuning in who are familiar with Liver King have probably seen him and his approach to sleeping. It's pretty extraordinary. It's not, he doesn't sleep on the floor, but it's basically like sleeping on the floor. He sleeps on a really, really thin mattress that's super hard. It's pretty much like sleeping on the floor. I think the reason why he doesn't sleep on the floor is because he wants a layer of protection from like EMF or something. Or he wants it's like a kind of grounding effect that it has. I don't know. Personally, I haven't slept on the floor. I think the Japanese mattresses are really cool as well. The minimalist style, really, really low ones, but I haven't gotten around to sleeping on the floor. Now, as far as the science, honestly speaking, I am unfamiliar. It seems like it would have a pretty good effect on your posture. I think sleeping with the pillow sometimes, if it really props your head up, it's going to further something like forward head posture, in my opinion. You want to get a really good pillow. I don't know.
If you're sleeping on the
honestly,
floor.
I'd have to try it. I couldn't tell you. I haven't tried it just yet. I haven't seen too much of the science. But if I get my hands on some good material or I get an expert on who is familiar with the substance, I wouldn't be opposed. I'd definitely try it out.
Okay, open to it. I presume Parker's not sleeping on the floor in the last 2.5 years either. So neither of you are fans of sleeping on the floor. I didn't catch that one. Sorry.
No, we cuddle every night.
Very nice. Not on yoga mats though, like on the bed. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. That was probably my biggest question. So, I'm not sure where to go from here. Well, I got another one for you. The recent podcast on sex with Chloe. Any effects from that? I mean, anything change in your sex life that you can share?
That was a really fun episode. And if you asked me months back or years back, hey, Andrés, would you ever do a podcast on sex? I would just look at you like you're crazy. But I think podcasting has really allowed me to express myself in a unique way, has helped me get to know myself, and has helped me learn so much, not just on the show, but connecting with these experts. Some of them have ended up being incredible mentors or people that I still network with or collaborate with, and so I get to learn from them on a weekly basis, which is amazing. And the sex episode is taught me a lot. It's one of the episodes that really taught me so much. And I think the angle that we took, well, generally speaking, Kama Lab is an incredible outlet for sex education. And so it's no doubt that having her on the show, having Chloe on the show, was a super educational experience. And it blew me away because I think you and I were speaking about this yesterday, which is, not only does she nail the education. So like I asked her, like, what are your 5 key takeaways for better sex? She'll nail that. But her ability to speak at a high level about more philosophical things and being able to package that for the average person who maybe isn't too spiritual or philosophical or whatever, like for the average person, like she did an incredible job. And I think that really helps inspire people to take the steps towards better sex, doing things that wouldn't really seem like they make a difference. So really feeling yourself and looking within and talking to your partner. Most people are concerned about things like, all right, like how do I like
Do I look good?
train
Yeah.
this muscle to like last longer, or numb my penis to, whatever. Like she has that advice too,
Sure.
but I think she really covered a really complete spectrum, and that podcast taught me a lot. Now I'm very close with my partner. We're super present with each other. We have an incredible, beautiful, blossoming relationship, and our sex life is great. But and this episode did make a difference. I'll tell you what. I think the best piece of advice that I got from her is, in order to last longer. And by lasting longer, I don't just mean like, all right, like I want to be like a porn star, right? But but just lasting longer for the sake of being able to enjoy a more intimate experience for the amount of time
Mm,
that you feel is appropriate for that experience. Because sometimes you may finish early and it's not something that you want. It's just something that happens.
correct.
And I thought for a long time, like a lot of young guys, that has to do with, to avoid finishing early, you have to think about something that turns you off. You have to try and feel less, while she teaches us how
NASCAR.
to feel more. So how to like really get in touch with your body so that you can see the signs early on, and from there, when it's early on enough to take action proactively, allowing you to last longer. So that was one thing. And then the next thing is, I mean, my girlfriend and I are great with communication in general, even around topics like, sex. But I think she really inspired me to dig a little deeper into the communication aspect. So not just like, I think when you think about sex communication, some of that maybe is dirty talk. Some of it is like, hey, does
Hmm.
this like actually feel good for you? Or like, hey, this feels good or doesn't feel good for me. But just kind of like really making it a thing to check in with my girlfriend sometimes, and it can feel uncomfortable, but I think it has a huge ROI, especially for people that are early on in their relationship. I know that recently, um, you've uh, you gained a lot from this podcast as well, and I know that this helped you open up some conversations with your girlfriend,
Hmm.
and apparently that worked really well for you too. So yeah, I think it's feeling more, being really present and how to be present in sex, and the communication. I mean, those three things really made a difference for me, like immediately.
Being
So, and a lot of the guys that tune in from, we have the KYP gentlemen's chat. A lot of the guys gave me amazing feedback. In fact, some of them said, "Hey, Andres, like, dude, had the best sex of my life after listening to
Mhm.
your podcast." Like, that is, hey, making a
That's
difference.
incredible. I mean, look at
That's
that. Yeah, and
awesome.
you told me that a couple days ago, but it's still hearing it again is
I
still
never
like,
thought
I
someone
mean,
would tell me
that's
something like that.
it's remarkable.
Well, thanks to Chloe,
Yeah.
of course, but yeah.
I mean, and you talk. I find you as I experience you as a very authentic person, an honest person, and I really like that about you. And when it comes to sex, something so private that you're willing to get up on a platform and share your own experience, I think it's really helping a lot of people, especially men. Men typically, of course, we all sort of understand intuitively that men struggle with communication relative to a woman's perspective. And you look at even something as extreme as, unfortunately, suicide rates are quite high for men. And so I think you're doing an amazing job socializing,
Well,
socializing this communication perspective. Yeah.
first of all, thank you so much for seeing that in me, and I'll tell you that I completely agree about men, and I think that this kind of conversation, the sex conversation, it can help men open up in general. So not only are you going to get better sex, but
Right.
it's a difficult conversation as a man, because as a man, I think naturally, and look, maybe this is nowadays in 2022, almost 2023, flirting with the borders of controversy, but I think men enjoy being more in control when they're having sex. They like to be the dominant figure. Um, and I think being the dominant figure, you almost like to get away with doing whatever you want. Now,
Mm.
again, I could be biased. I'm not some kind of crazy dominant whatever. Trust me, especially around my partner. We have a very we
Sure,
have
you're
a good
very
balance.
gentle and yeah, nice. Yeah.
But I think men naturally want to have more of like that. Want to be have more of that like energy. And I think sometimes really thinking that you have it all figured out and that it's all about you during sex. Like think about, for example, men versus women finishing, right? Like I think a lot
Mm.
of dudes don't know how to get girls off, or
Right.
they don't think it's even like something that you should do, right? They just kind of like they get
Hmm.
off, they leave the girl, whatever. Like you, so all this kind of falls in line with this concept of men don't speak out enough about these intimate subjects. And I think that when you get to know yourself, look within, and you can communicate that and express that effectively, I think that's honestly pretty manly. It takes a lot of courage as men. And I think that courage is what we're lacking. If we had more courage, we would be able to avoid things like suicide as men and depression as men. So I think it's just one example and one avenue that can help us open up general conversation that helps us build courage.
And on the subject of courage, it sounds like you're saying that there's a door, that talking about sex is just one door to open up a better lifestyle, which is what
Yeah.
I understand you're all about, and better self feeling and experience within one's body and in relationship. Do you see yourself going with KYP more towards this emotional perspective on relationships and communication? 'Cause I know it's something you embody yourself. Do you see things going in that direction? Have you thought about that? Future guests, things like that?
Yeah, I think it's essential. And I think that with every guest that I have on, one of the first question I ask every guest that I have on is why you do what you do.
Hmm.
And the reason why I ask that question is because it shows you a lot about someone. And I think it's a way for people to truly express themselves, because you can always get the what and how, like, oh, what do you do? Like how do you do
Hmm.
what you do? Like people can just kind of like take you through a list, like a bullet pointed list in their heads of like what they do or who they are. Like something
Right.
it's what you would see in a CV, resume, or a LinkedIn. That's boring to me. I want to know why. And I think, and this is just what I'm trying to do here, is doing more showing rather than telling, right? When you get someone to open up with a why, automatically you get more of an emotional response, a more authentic response. And I think starting with that, opening with that, will lead to an even better episode. Because if someone just starts off with like their LinkedIn bullet point or whatever in their
Hmm.
heads, then the rest of the
Hmm.
podcast is going to be like that. It's going to be like, oh, like what do you do? Like how? And they're just kind of they're going to go on an automatic mode. You
Mm,
know?
interesting.
And I think a lot of folks, and especially with health and wellness in the health and wellness field, a lot of the behaviors and habits that people suggest, it's kind of like, a morning routine. Like you're going through a bullet
Hmm.
pointer list, or like your workout. You're
Hmm.
going to do this exercise, that exercise, this one for four sets, 8 to 12 reps. Like you're going like down these lists. And I
Hmm.
think that having more of having a higher emotional degree, or a higher, I guess, emotional intelligence, or just adding in a layer of emotion, or, deeper expression, can help bring out the best in you, what's unique in you, and can make for a much more engaging, creative experience. So I definitely think it's, our responsibility at Know Your Physio to inspire folks to be in touch with their emotions, especially men, because it seems like nowadays, especially, we're out of touch with our emotions. And I feel like having that as a pillar, as a foundational pillar for health and wellness, will make everything else way funner, more engaging, more dynamic, and more free flowing and creative. And to give a concrete example, let's say with the fitness,
Yeah, please.
everyone knows fitness and 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps, whatever. Like, let me tell you something. The best way to train, in my opinion, and I've done it all. I'm still a relatively young guy, but I'm an exercise physiologist. I've done all kinds of workouts and all kinds of programs, and I've made hundreds for people, thousands. I think that the best thing you can do is go to the gym and do two things: have fun and challenge yourself. And that's always going to lead to awesome progress, because if you're having fun and challenging yourself, look, challenging yourself, if you always make effort and you suffer with each set, you're going to make insane progress. You're going to get stronger. You're going to build endurance. You're going to build your
Hmm.
cardiovascular system. Okay, great. And if you keep things fun, you're going to have a good time. You're going to smile. You're going to release endorphins. You're going to feel better about the experience in the gym. You're going to condition yourself to enjoy the gym environment more. You're going to be more motivated to
Hmm.
come back. If you keep it systematic, it's just going to be something and look, that's not wrong. It works for a lot of
Sure.
people. But I just think that having fun makes everything way, way, way better and leads to like real lasting results. Like if you can add another layer to working out that's going to keep you coming back, like why wouldn't you do that? You know?
Right. And how many people do you feel like do that? I mean, just in your experience of, hundreds of folks that you've worked with, whether it be an exercise plan, full training, health coaching, concierge medicine, how
The,
many people are adding that layer today?
so I think the people that are actually, I think that when you speak to experts, let's say when approach, let's say, the fittest guy in the gym, right? And let's talk
Hmm.
about natty guys, right? Like the guys on juice, that's a different world.
Yeah, let's
I
just
don't play
exclude
with that
them for
world.
the time
That's
being.
like a whole different subject. But the naturals, like the lifetime naturals that are in insane shape, you'll ask them like what their biggest secret is, and oftentimes they'll say like having fun and challenging myself. And you can see it not just in like physically, but it's the energy that they embody. Like they're gonna smile, they want to help you. They know that it's like
Hmm.
a fun thing. They're playing with their bodies. You know, they're not there like
Mm.
systematically grinding away at their muscles and like 4 sets, 8 to 12, blah blah blah, year after year. Like, look, that works for some of the best really well. That works for some people. But I don't just want to have the best aesthetics. I want to have a smile on my face while I do the things that I enjoy. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of folks that are up there in the fitness world, they do the same. As far as professionals, generally speaking,
Hmm.
that I've met, um, it's incredible that a lot of the guests that I've had on talk about scientific subjects. They'll surprise
Hmm.
me with something very spiritual or very emotional sometimes
Hmm.
that will do a really good job at penciling in or coloring in rather all the other amazing work that they've done. And so like again, you can you can meet someone amazing and maybe you can learn a little bit about their accomplishments. But when you realize why they're doing what they're doing and when there's that emotional, more, deeper expression element to it, you kind of really you really get to put yourself in someone's shoes and go, wow, like that's why they became an extra, like that's why they pursued a PhD. Like that's why they're the
Hmm.
best in the world at this one thing. It's not just because of the title itself. It's because there's really something there that made them scratch that itch, and look how far that took them. So it's almost like the PhD is like a product of their why.
Mm.
It's not like their why is a PhD. Like, oh, I'm a PhD. Like, I don't like to talk to those people. I don't like to connect to those people. I like to connect to people that have something, that have a deeper layer.
Hmm.
Um, um, and by
And
deeper,
you
I
have
mean
some of
an
those
emotional
folks.
layer. That
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Well, we could redo that end of that, but you like to talk to people with a deep emotional layer. Yeah,
I like to talk to people that not don't just have the knowledge, but they have a story.
a story.
So if I'm going to simplify everything that I just said, I really enjoy stories, and I really enjoy seeing how far a story can take someone in their professional or even personal career.
And when you think about stories with your coaching clients, whether it's through H&H or with KYP or your personal clients, when people don't enjoy play in the gym, I mean, you have some folks with H&H who are, and maybe you can touch on what that is to remind folks, who are morbidly obese. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the gym is not a place of play for them. And yet I assume, you want them exercising, and we can restate this if we need to. So you have folks who are morbidly obese, and how do you bring play into their lives generally when it's so core to their being, like you're transforming their health and really trying to make a change?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Do you do it from a biohacking way as well? From those other folks, you have both spectrums.
Yeah, so it's interesting that I do see people on both ends of the spectrum. I see through
Hmm.
H&H or Hambre Hormonas, which is a fully remote concierge medical practice that I started a few years back with a few MDs. And
Hmm.
we help people understand the language of their hunger hormones to adopt habits that promote lasting weight loss. So, understanding the relationship of, let's say, ghrelin or leptin or insulin or cortisol. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it's not about, let's say, you need to get your hormones right to lose weight. No, no, no. Yes, hormones are involved in things like, satiety and energy balance, whatever. But the way that we approach it is understanding the language of the hormones, the hunger hormones is what we call them, is almost an
Hmm.
excuse to like take up habits that are generally known to promote positive
Interesting.
lifestyle change. But it makes people curious about what if I do, like what if I know about the hormones, like it adds that layer of curiosity that gets people to think and reflect on these habits, versus just kind of like saying, oh yeah, these are healthy habits, so I'm gonna like do them and maintain
Because
them.
that didn't work for them in the past. So it's almost
Yeah,
another door. Like sex is a door in one respect. And I know you had Dr. Rosenthal, is that right? One
yeah,
of your partners in H&H on the podcast. And
yeah,
he himself was overweight, fatty liver, high A1Cs as an MD. And you see that quite a bit. And then he presumably partially under your influence and partially under his own move towards preventative medicine,
Yeah.
he looked in the mirror and said, "Hey, wait a minute. I want to have more play. I want to have the gym. I want to have my bike. I want to have sports in my life." And so his door, I mean, it'd be good maybe you can comment on his door. And so it sounds like with your, morbidly obese patients or, clients from H&H, those folks, you have to speak to them in another language
Yeah.
to get them to engage with what's already a scientifically backed practice. So you have to go through
Yeah.
the hormone door, which is of course a useful door, to get them to do the other things that are
Yeah.
helpful for them. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say, or how
No,
would you summarize
exactly.
that?
That's exactly it. And it is interesting because the folks that I see there, they're older. They have, they unfortunately suffer with several chronic diseases, most of them. So
Several.
everything from obesity, dyslipidemia, cardiometabolic syndrome,
Mhm.
fatty liver, diabetes, etc. And then, my other clients, my personal clients, some of them are super high performers. They can be head of a venture capital firm, CEO on the board of huge companies to, recently one of the guys in the KYP Gents chat, Mickey, who I hope to have on the podcast soon. I coached him. He's younger than me. He's 23 and he finished third place in the World Series of Poker, won $4 million.
Wow. Wow.
I've had super high achieving students in high school that ended up in like the top schools in the entire country. All kinds of crazy athletes. Like I've coached all, tons of high performers, and then I have people on the opposite end of the spectrum, and it is a completely different conversation with the high performers who are looking to improve by 5 to 10%. Sometimes it is a matter of play that they need because they're too structured. Sometimes they are lacking structure and they're playing too much. So I kind of will ask them a lot of questions and help them arrive at the answer. And then we determine, what to do next. But I find that for folks that are morbidly obese, I think a lot of them are discouraged because they think they have to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again for years to get results. And when you show, well, again, from my experience, this isn't everybody, from my experience seeing those clients and patients, showing people how much of a return they get on doing something as simple as walking every day really helps inspire and motivate folks.
And that's where wearables come in. And maybe you could generalize that too to the folks who are listening and where they might not have enough play in their lives, whether it be the work and their relationship with sex, it might be their routines, whether it be fitness or consumption of supplements, where it feels routinated and they feel stuck, because tons of people out there listening feel stuck, even if they are CEOs, even if they are, and even some of the folks who have a number of chronic illnesses probably are quite successful in their professional lives, which I find, super interesting. So I wonder do you have a generalized view on play and storytelling that has helped you in your life? And maybe you could share a bit about that to help folks if they feel stuck.
Yeah. So to bridge the gap between what I do and what has worked for these people and what I promote with these kinds of individuals in H&H, so
In H&H.
very much overweight, older, want to revert disease and prevent disease, and lose. Yeah, definitely weight loss is like the biggest thing. One thing that I know as a matter of fact, and there's a lot of science to support this point, if you're a beginner with fitness and healthy living, you're going to see a huge difference in your health and wellness in a matter of a few months versus someone like me or someone like you, and in addition to that, one of the changes that you see is you start to release endorphins, like a massive amount of endorphins with each exercise session. Nowadays, you and me, we're addicted to exercise because of the endorphin that we get, the endorphin rush. When you take someone that hasn't done any exercise, that is overweight, that doesn't really move their body much, when you get them to invest in their health and wellness for just 3 weeks, you see incredible changes in their mood, in their mindset, in their physique. You see such huge changes. And so I like to introduce the element of play by telling people, like one of our first meetings, like I tell them, hey, you're going to see a lot of incredible change. And I take them through the science. And when they kind of see this as like a fun thing and like a new challenge to their body that's going to give them, that's going to evoke this kind of feeling and response, they get really motivated and they'll do it for a few weeks and they feel so good. Like something as simple as a walk. Not only is it going to release some endorphins because you're moving your body, but you're also outside getting fresh air, you're getting vitamin D. You can listen to a podcast or do it with a friend. Something else, speaking of friends, something else that helps to, this multiplies play and can really help the folks that have no exercise experience to invest and maintain their habits consistently, is work out with a buddy or go to a fitness class. Now, I know a lot of people that are overweight. My clients have had the experience when they tell me, okay, but I'm intimidated. I don't want to go to a class, and being the only overweight person there. How am I? And I tell them, look.
Yeah, what do you tell them there?
You can either go with someone that you trust. You can go with your daughter or son or your partner, or you can do an online class to start and see how good it feels. But at least you have other people that are there engaging in the experience, and it really helps to multiply this endorphin effect. There's an incredible book by Kelly McGonigal, PhD. She's a psychology PhD, teaches at Stanford. She wrote a book called The Joy of Movement. Oh my God, what a beautiful book. That book takes you through, the first 2 chapters take you through the endorphin response in the brain with movement and how incredible it is to work out in groups with people. Like, the influence that has on the brain is insane. And there's evolutionarily preserved mechanisms that are responsible for this. We're supposed to be engaging in exercise around people. Like, think about way back. When were we engaged in high levels of activity? When we were going out and hunting or gathering, we were with people and trading and collecting and cooking and preparing and, bonding. And so if you think about exercise now, like, exercise is a stressor. Doing it in isolation is cool. And you can get into your super masculine masochist grind mode, hoodie on, whatever solo approach. But when you do it with other people, let me tell you something. You're going to push harder. And you can also afford to push harder because the endorphins have a cardioprotective effect. So it's not only are you pushing harder because you're motivated by other people and because you know that they have your back, but you literally produce endorphins that have a protective effect in case you go too hard.
Wow.
And you also see increased rates of, nitric oxide. You're calmer, you're more relaxed, your blood vessels will dilate. You get more blood flow. And now, bridging this to my experience, the best fitness that I ever got in my life, that I've ever gotten in my life, 3 things that come to mind, 3 experiences. And this is going to wrap everything that I just set up very nicely. 3 experiences. Number 1 is, well, in no specific order. Number 1 is working out in Muscle Beach. So a lot of the guys that I worked out with in Muscle Beach, they're in our group chat. And dude, going out there, 8 a.m, on the sand, beautiful beach, complete outdoor gym, completely free. So anyone that's in Miami, you need to take advantage of this. Muscle Beach. I would go out there. I had a group of guys who were like 10. There was like 10 of us. And dude, we would destroy each other every morning, laughing our asses off in the sunlight, playing music. Dude, it was absolutely insane. And my biggest lifts by far were out there. Like, the amount
bench,
of
squat.
It was insane. Like, I'm not even kidding. Absolutely nuts, the stuff that we would do out there. Like, and I would feel amazing after each workout. The next example is cycling. When I was really into cycling, I had to quit it because it got way too dangerous. Especially in Miami. But being in the Peloton, by the way, for those who don't know, Peloton nowadays, it's that popular stationary bike that people have at home. But a Peloton in cycling is literally a group of cyclists. That's a Peloton. So being in the Peloton, that's a sport of millimeters and milliseconds, like some of my friends say, because you have to be so present and so aware, because you get a little too close to somebody or you don't notice something the second that it happens, and you will break a bone or die or something crazy because you're going so fast on a road with sometimes we're going in groups early in the morning with 100 people, 120 people. You see a tight-knit group of 120 cyclists. And like the camaraderie, the communication that happens, like, you're killing yourself on a bike for 2 hours. Like, oh my God, man, I'm bringing the amount of memories that are flushing back just thinking about
getting
this.
Chills.
And it goes to show just how much that kind of experience and being around others can influence your workout. If I wasn't around those people, I would have never, ever gone that fast or that hard on that bike. There's no reason to. You look
Yeah.
like an idiot going that fast or that hard. You'd burn out so quickly. But when you see other people engaging in something like this around you, it shows you what human beings are capable of in a way, because there's always going to be someone that's better than you. And it's
Yep.
kind of, that'll teach you about your own ability. And when someone isn't feeling their best or they're kind of slowing down, you get the chance to be there for them sometime. And then there's just so much about that that really adds to the experience and to the fitness itself. And then the
And what's
third
number three?
example
Yeah.
is spearfishing, freedive spearfishing.
Okay.
I've had a chance to do that all over the world, which is a blessing. And
Hmm.
that, my friend, is, oh my God, it's an expedition with guys that you know that you can trust with your life.
Yep.
And being on a boat in paradise, hunting fish with the people that with some of the guys that you really care about. Oh my God, what an insane experience. What an insane workout that satisfies you on a physical, emotional, spiritual level. And it's a great way to connect with the environment. And I'll tell you that doing it alone is extremely dangerous, not as fun,
Hmm.
and just not worth it, in my opinion. So
So I take it you prefer spearfishing to drinking a beer on the boat, or you'll combine the two, maybe, or
yeah.
maybe the
Well, look,
beer might be a little dangerous for the spearfishing, or
look,
how does
I,
that work?
I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. And again,
Yeah.
I'm biased, but I think drinking with the guys, like, look, there's always a time and a place,
Yep.
but it's not manly. Like drinking beer, you're going to see lower testosterone, higher levels of estrogen. You're going to get a beer belly. Like,
100%.
that's not manly.
No,
You know, what are
it
you going
doesn't
to
make any sense at
talk
all.
about
Yeah.
girls you can't get and grow your beer belly and
Yep.
increase your estrogen? Like, that's not manly at all.
Yeah, sometimes I'm in those situations and I'm like, I'm proud of myself for resisting. I'm drinking the seltzer, I'm drinking the water, non-alcohol seltzer. And I think you're right. And I think that takes that mindset. I mean, wow, so many places we could go with this. I want to take it back to, like going really hard at something, whether it's the Peloton, Muscle Beach, spearfishing. When do you get in? Do you know Goggins? Are you familiar with
Of
David
course.
Goggins, the
Yes.
running guy?
I love Goggins.
Hey,
Yeah.
when do you get in your Goggins mode? I mean, when do you, do you do it in a team? And those people out there, how do you get them in their how did they get back in their Goggins mode? Because I think we've all been there, running and screaming at ourselves and cursing at ourselves to keep going. And what's that mode for you? How do you generalize it to the broader population? Because we got to get going, man. This
Yeah.
country's got to get moving. We've got to get moving.
Well, man, I'm going to try my best to break this up into parts.
You got to tell us the music you listen to too when you're in Goggins mode.
Well, you know what? Ironically enough, Dave Goggins doesn't listen to music because he's a big believer in
That's
the
right.
intrinsic drive and intrinsic motivation. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. In a lot of videos, you'll probably hear music, and listening to music can help drive you. And there's a lot of good research to support that. But I'm a big believer in the intrinsic drive. What can you do to develop your personal drive? So without
Mhm.
being extrinsically or
Yes.
externally motivated by anything else. Some people are motivated by money or by pressure from society or by their parents or their friends or loud music or energy drinks, right? You have to find that one thing that you really care about, that you really want to do. You have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. You have to have a plan. And when you have something like that, that really resonates with your spirit, that really resonates with who you are, you don't need to take anything, listen to any music, listen to anybody. You're going to make it happen.
And do you mind if I ask and interrupt you for a moment? You've had your own hurdle moments that, I've known you and read about what you got off ADHD meds in high school. You were trying to find yourself sophomore year. Goggins in his book and in his podcast recommends sitting in a room by yourself, shutting the fuck up and being real hard and truthful with yourself to find that mission. Because why are you on this earth? And I'm not going to do an impression of David, but
you got to do it. You got to do an impression now. You got to do it now.
Yeah. Who's going to carry the boats and the logs? Just shut the fuck up, go in a room by yourself, and stop talking.
Okay.
So
you want to know
what
what
was that for you?
Goggins mode was? Thinking back,
Yeah.
you brought back you just brought back some incredible memories that I think, because everything I just said sounds really nice, sounds really special, sounds really pretty. But let me tell you something. There was a lot of ugly shit that happened.
Give me the grime. Yeah, give me the grind and the grime. And
I think I've only spoken about this maybe one other time on a podcast way back. So I don't think a lot of people actually know this about me. But yeah, look, first of all the ADHD stuff, that was a huge struggle. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life was getting off ADHD meds. Took them for 10 years. I was completely addicted to them. was taking the highest dosage of Adderall, 60 milligrams and 75
Wow.
grams. For anyone that's taking
XR.
Adderall,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. That's like taking cocaine. Okay, it's
Oh yeah.
literally cocaine. It's you will just, and no disrespect to anybody taking that medication, but let me tell you that I took it for a long time. I dealt with some really serious side effects, a stutter, anxiety, didn't have any friends, couldn't socialize because I was too afraid to stutter, and I was just so like obsessed with anything but social life, my homework or whatever. I've done many podcasts. I've spoken about the ADHD experience
Sure. Yeah. No, I know you
extensively.
have. And
But anyway, I finally got off of that when I was in my sophomore year of college. This was when life really tested me. And I say tested me because, my whole life I wanted to go into medicine. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon. There's a lot of doctors in my family. And I always thought it's the most rewarding way to apply science to help others. I had a lot of I had an epiphany my sophomore year. I was going through a really tough time in school, and I had to really sort of reflect and think to myself. I had to, out of necessity, I had to reflect because the workload with everything else that was happening in my life, there's a lot of personal family stuff that just wasn't going well.
okay.
I was in such a tough spot that I had to ask myself, is the effort to do well in these classes and in these subjects, is the
Mhm.
effort going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth it? Is that really who I am? Because if I'm going to make that effort, I'm not going to have time for anything else in my life that
Right.
matters. And and a few different things matter to me. My personal health being one of them, because I just got off of ADD meds and I wanted to double down on my health and wellness. I knew that going the direction of medicine was going to create a lot more resistance. And so much so to the point that it was really going to take away from other things in my life that were important to me in that time and still are important to me today. So here are the dark times that I went through. Dude, I lived in a little condo, little apartment with a roommate my sophomore year.
Hmm.
I shit you not. I would come back from school. I'd drive home from the university every day, and almost every single day, I would get back late, maybe around 7 or 8 p.m. Dude, I would sit in my car with the car on for 1 to 2 hours. I would record myself. I
Hmm.
would record what I was feeling and what I was going through. I probably still have some of these recordings, and it's scary to think that because I can't even begin to imagine what I was really like back then. I was a different person.
Hmm.
I wasn't. I have freedom now, which is why I can be authentic. I really have dug deep into who I am and what I love, and it's been very rewarding. But anyway,
No, share about it. Yeah,
I
share about it.
spoke to myself, and dude, I really felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. Like my parents were going through a really tough time. They were on the brink of
Mhm.
getting a divorce, which is crazy to even say today because they're so happy.
Wow. Yeah.
I had a family member pass away. I was taking the hardest classes I've ever taken, organic chem, uh, physics, calculus 2. I had just broken up with my girlfriend of 3 years. A lot of stuff was happening. I would listen to those recordings on my high days. I'd listen to my low recordings, and on my low days, I'd
Interesting.
listen to my high days, just to give
Hmm.
myself perspective. I would try to give myself perspective, and I would try to pick out the things that actually made me happy. And it's crazy because nowadays I've learned from so many people in the productivity space just how
Sure.
important, and for example, from Tim Ferriss, he has an exercise where, and I'll link to it in the show notes. He
Hmm.
does a past year review where you look at your calendar from the past year, right? Like let's say a Google Calendar, you look at it and you get a piece of paper, you split it in half, you write positive and negative. You go through each
Hmm.
week of the year, you make a list for all the negative and all the positive, and then
Hmm.
for each list, let's say you have, I don't know, 20 bullet points for each list, like the peak positive and peak negative experiences, and you pick out the top 20% positive leaders and the top 20% negative leaders. For the
Hmm.
positive, you circle all of them and you make sure to plan more of that for the incoming year. So whether
Hmm.
it's either a person, a commitment, an event that you did, these can be positive leaders. You make sure to plan those in your calendar as soon as possible. And then you take your negative leaders and you put them on a not to do list. And you take that on a sticky note and put it somewhere that you can see it every single day. So it brings me back to this experience because I was doing a really good job about picking out, all right, what are the things that actually, in all these different aspects of my life, what are the things
Hmm.
that are actually making me happier? So I would go to, for example, the classes at school that I was taking, which of those classes was actually making me happy.
Okay.
So believe it or not, one of them was one of my toughest classes, which was biochemistry. And so I said, I want to learn more things like biochemistry. That's just something that I knew. What are the things that I don't want to learn? Physics. I hated physics.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually switched majors 3 times because of this exercise, and I found exercise physiology, which resonated perfectly with me at the time, and still
Mm-hmm.
today, is very much part of my life. Then other things like my friends. I had certain friends that I had grown up with who just didn't get it. We were just different
Yeah.
people, and at this point in my
Yep.
life, they just weren't really contributing much positive. They either wanted me to go out and, I don't know, smoke something or drink something or whatever. It just wasn't adding real value to
And
my
you were
life.
19 at this time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
knew I had
that's
to.
a big break at 19.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was in a critical point where I knew I had to make better decisions and the right decisions
Mhm.
for my future. And so
Mhm.
I'm not someone that likes to cut people off, but I just knew I have to maybe avoid this person a little, or have my distance. So I would go through these
Mhm.
different aspects of my life, and I would
Mhm.
pick out the things that weren't working for me and the things that were. And so now looking forward to something like the Tim Ferriss exercise, which is a very practical guide on, doubling down on the good stuff and eliminating the bad stuff, like it works so well. And so for the people that are tuning in now that are going through a lull, a tough
Yep.
time, I think it's important to do something like this exercise and to really be super clear about what it is that isn't contributing values to your life. And you don't
Mhm.
have to be rude. You don't have to say something to anyone. Just
Yeah.
do it for you. Do it for you. Give yourself the peace of mind first and then see what happens. And then the good stuff, maybe right now it doesn't actually tell you what's next, or maybe it's not exactly what you want to be doing. But as long as you keep doing things that make you feel good, it'll
Mhm.
give you the peace of mind, the freedom, the clarity, the energy to think about the things that you actually really truly want to do. But the more negative leaders that you have, the more bullshit substance that you have, the harder it is to think clearly about things. So, dude, that was a really tough time for me. It was a really, really, really tough time because I felt so alone, man. I felt so alone. I
Mhm.
only had myself to talk to. I did have friends, don't get me wrong, but they just didn't get it. Like I didn't know how to talk to them. Also, going back to
Mhm.
being a man, I
Yeah.
didn't really know how to open up. I didn't want to open up.
Mhm.
I didn't have the courage to open up.
Mhm.
I didn't.
Even though you had stuff on your chest, you had stuff in your brain, your head was racing every day, you had tons of family stress, tons of really intense schoolwork. So what your outlet was yourself, which, worked really well for you. And how did you get out of that period? Other than the lists, which,
Yeah.
are kind of a scoreboard for you, which I think seems really helpful to have something in front of you, and the recordings, which again put
You know what
a
made a
mirror in front
huge
of you.
difference in my life, man?
Yeah.
Was stumbling upon a mentor. I didn't know
Interesting.
I didn't, objectively speaking, anyone can tell you a mentor's a good thing and you should go and
Sure.
seek out
Sure.
mentors. Bro, at the time I
Sure.
didn't know, like, sure, like a higher figure, someone I look up to objectively that makes sense to me. It's something that I probably want to do, but I
Hmm.
didn't actively seek a mentor at the time.
Hmm.
What happened was I finally switched to the exercise physiology major, and I go into one of my first classes, and the professor instantly, within seconds, I knew I wanted to be like this guy.
Awesome.
Why? Because the guy was absolutely fucking brilliant. It's not just about being smart, it's the way that he was able to communicate a message.
Hmm.
And that message was, it was science packaged as practical advice and knowledge about human physiology that I think, and especially in that moment, I was like, oh my God, everybody needs to know what this guy is saying.
Right. Right. You're like, I need to get this message out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'll put it this way. Every time I was in that guy's class,
Hmm.
every single time, I learned something new about my body, about my mind, about my psyche, my nutrition,
Hmm.
that instantly improved my quality of life. Like, instantly.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't that day, maybe it was that week. But every single time I took that class, every time I went to that class, I left with a better understanding of my body, which is what inspired Know Your Physio.
Hmm.
At the very beginning, Know Your Physio, the name of the brand previously was Holy Fit, which is kind of
Right.
like to express like the eureka moment of like, holy shit, like, you know,
So something
dude,
about the
that
moment.
class
Yeah.
was eureka moment after eureka moment. And not only was this guy knowledgeable and an incredible educator, by the way, his name is Dr. Wes Smith. Wes, if you're listening to this, I love you and thank you for everything that you've done, and everything that you still
Great.
continue to do. Anyway, not only was he knowledgeable, But this guy was living proof that this stuff worked. He was a super athlete, like, previous competitive triathlete, super active guy, was extremely fit, good looking, healthy guy. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's at this level teaching this class. He, by the way, has won multiple awards. He has the highest. So there's this thing in called, I think it's called the Iron. Is it Iron Arrow? Oh my god, I'm gonna get
Teaching
shit on
award
this.
or something
It's
academic
basically the
related?
highest
Yeah.
honor at I think it's called the Iron
Wow.
Arrow. I could be wrong, and people from that are listening are gonna, shit on me for this. I think it's called the Iron Arrow. He had
Good
that
Hurricane.
award, and he also, of all the teachers in the entire university, he taught the most classes, and
Wow.
had a family with kids, had a company that he was running on the side that I ended up interning for and ended up managing for, and that actually helped to create Physio and H&H. So this guy had an incredible impact on my future, and he was living proof of what was possible. Because I was like, all right, I'm leaving pre-med to study exercise
Hmm.
because it
Right.
worked
It
for me,
seems like
because it
a
helped me get
drop off,
healthier.
you know?
Like, that's so
Yeah.
selfish. I was going to go help others, and I ended up just helping myself. And I realized,
Hmm.
as I learned more and more, and I had these eureka moments, and I learned directly from someone like Dr. Wes Smith, just how valuable that knowledge is for everybody. And dude, he made the difference in my life. He made the
Wow.
difference. Yeah, as soon
And
as
so for
that
folks, yeah.
that
Hmm.
really made the ultimate difference. And from that first class, he introduced an internship. Dude,
Hmm.
I after that hour lecture,
You're like, I'm
I
getting this
literally
internship.
ran up to him, be the first person to sign up, and I ended up becoming, after a few years, I became the manager of that internship.
Wow.
Um, that's what it was, bro. When you see an opportunity like that, if you're lost and you see someone that you look up to, I think you should
Yeah.
just completely don't don't overwhelm them, but
Yeah.
really show them that you want to learn, that you're there to absorb, that
Yes.
you're there to,
Yes.
be humbled, and they're gonna humble you.
Right, and for men especially, I mean, I've had so many similar experiences in college and early career where folks super inspiring and managed to have a coffee with me or managed to take office hours. And so when you meet somebody like that, especially for folks who are more introverted or they feel stuck in life, they're not in a great place anyway. I mean, you have this authenticity, which I shared at the top, which really comes through, and I'm sure that came through to your professor, your mentor, person who you're thanking for really starting you on this journey. How do you help folks, or what advice would you give to folks when they're approaching quote unquote high profile people? And I know some of the guests upcoming on your podcast, congrats and awesome, and you in fact also speak with a number of folks very senior, quite established in their industry. What's your take on that, both for mentors, both for partnerships? I find people really struggle with fear and rejection, and it's something I've worked on, but I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your take on that in that moment and some other stories you've had about that.
So before I answer that question, I'll say that when I approached this guy, there's
Hmm.
no chance that I was anywhere near as authentic or as secure with my personality or identity as I am today.
Yeah.
I was so lost when I approached him.
Right.
All I knew was that I wanted what he had, which was, he was super, dude. This guy was himself and so comfortable. He like made jokes about himself, like because he was objective. Like, he was such a brilliant lecturer and such a healthy guy. You know, he didn't take himself seriously. Like, he just kind of liked to fuck around because he really wanted to be there for everybody else. He wanted to help people. And he's the kind of guy that can take himself very seriously, but he chose not to. He chose to be silly.
Hmm.
Why I like being silly.
Mm.
But anyway, back then I definitely wasn't anywhere as secure or as authentic. I didn't know who I was, and I wanted to figure that out. And I think for people that are in a similar spot, and by the way, I consider myself, believe it or not, more introverted than extrovert. I think occasionally, like, I'm very selectively extroverted. Like, things like this really bring the
Yeah.
best out of me because it's fun and I know that it creates value for a lot of folks. But dude, and especially nowadays, I've been living a more private life than before, and it feels natural. It feels good to me. But anyway, not to
Yeah, we can
talk,
dive into that too. Yeah.
but back then I was more introverted, didn't really know who I was or what I was going to be or what I wanted to do. I would say the best advice that I can give people is just make the priority. Like, when you see someone like this and you're going to
Hmm. Hmm.
approach them with the number one intention, which is to learn. And
Yes.
sometimes learning isn't literally the knowledge that they're going to share with you, but it's
Hmm.
learning how to get better at approaching people like that. Like when you
Yes,
approach someone,
exactly.
approach them with the intention to like learn from the experience. Like you're going to get better at talking to strangers and talking to people that
Yes.
you have to make mistakes. And I'll tell you something else is this is something that I learned from a guy named Per Bristow that I had on the podcast a while
Yep.
back. He's a professional voice coach. He helps, musicians, speakers to have a more confident voice and to speak more confidently, either, with public speaking or speeches, whatever. He told me that he often has students that are very nervous, that are very introverted, but they're in a
Hmm.
position where they have to give a speech or speak out or connect to somebody. And he
Hmm. Hmm.
goes, "Well, I'm glad you're nervous because it shows me that you care.
Interesting.
I'd be more
Yep.
concerned if you weren't nervous."
Hmm.
If you think that connecting with a mentor or someone that you look up to is about being
It's nerve wracking.
super,
Yeah.
super like just calm always and like super direct, like that's boring.
Hmm.
Especially as a young person, you want to show them that you're nervous because it shows that you care.
Yeah.
It shows that you care. And I'll tell you something, when you're in that moment, don't take it too seriously. Like those people I find,
Hmm.
and again, a lot of this is what works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody else.
Hmm.
But when I meet people like that, I always think to myself, like, there's so many people, young, old, whatever. Like, there's so many people in general that are trying to get this person's attention.
Yes.
I want to make sure that if I connect with them, I say something that they're going to remember.
Interesting.
And so I think a lot of folks, to avoid making a fool of themselves, to avoid being nervous, they'll come
Hmm.
up with the most generic questions to try and connect with these people, to try to
Yes.
avoid getting nervous. And it just makes for like, you're not actually going to, you can, whatever you're going to learn from that person, you could have
Yep.
just Googled their name and learned the same thing that they're going to tell you right in that
Yeah.
moment. So it counts to be nervous. It counts to ask the weird, silly, ridiculous questions because you're going to get practice.
Hmm.
It's going to be a memorable experience for them and for you, and it'll help them remember you, and it'll give them a reason to continue to help you because you're going to know that you really have specific questions for them.
Hmm.
You know, I don't consider myself famous or popular or anything like that, but a lot of people that approach me,
Hmm.
they have this image of me. They think that I'm like this big deal sometimes,
Hmm.
and they'll ask me questions that kind of throw me off because I'm like, I don't really think they want to ask me that question. Like they could just Google that.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's
Do
the
you
people
do you
that
push back and just be like, "Hey, what do you actually want to know?" I mean, you gotta be delicate, right? But what do
yeah, I
you?
try to be delicate. I always
Sure.
smile and I go, "Ah, well, this." Like I try not to tell people. I never tell people like I just go on Google. I never say that. I'm always
Yeah.
playful with it, but I don't know. I try to feel things. I try to ask them questions to really narrow it down specifically what they actually want to
Hmm.
ask, what they actually want to know. And
Hmm.
I'm a big believer in that you always want to give people more value than what they ask for. And so sometimes
Hmm.
people ask with a generic, very broad question to kind of like break the ice or because it just kind of works as an introduction. And I know that they want to learn more. I know that they, and I also love educating. I love teaching. And so I love getting into the nitty gritty, even when I just meet somebody to create that bond, and to
So you'll
really,
get deep and gritty real quick. Yeah. So
yeah. And it's also
you'll go
because,
Goggins on them, maybe.
yeah. And it reminds me of myself too.
Yeah.
Like when I see, dude, I'll tell you what, my biggest accomplishment ever, seriously, I mean this with all my heart. My biggest accomplishment is I've had 4 individual high school and college students approach me to do projects about me. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
interviewing a founder or an entrepreneur or someone in the fitness space. I've had 2 young people ask me for letters of recommendation. I never thought that would be possible. That's
Hmm.
my biggest accomplishment. And these people, when they approach me, you can imagine they're pretty nervous. If
Yeah.
they look up to me like I'm some kind of big time entrepreneur, like I don't think, dude, I'm not even at 1% where I want to be. So to me, it's just living my life. When these people approach me, I see myself in them. And it's crazy because I still feel so young. And I
Hmm.
go, oh my God, like stay curious. Like I'm here to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm here for
I
you.
really try to
Reach
bridge
out
the gap
anytime.
between I try to make it so realistic for them. I try to really make it realistic and I really try to help them because I know that's what I would have loved if when I was their age, for
Hmm.
someone that I looked up to really be there for me. So I try my best to be there for them and just knowing that they wanted to do those projects about me, like that's huge. And so maybe that's another thing that you can do. If you have someone, for the people that are tuning in, young
Hmm.
or old, if you want to develop the skill of, connecting with people that you look up to, get a chance to collaborate with them somehow. Write something about them, create value for them in some way,
Hmm.
and make a fool of yourself because it shows them that you care, and it'll create that bond.
It's incredible advice. I mean, I think everyone should hear this who feels like they want to get somewhere, because the only way we get somewhere is with other people. I think doing it alone is a misnomer. And even when you're working out alone, you have other people in your head, whether it be your trainer, Andrés, whether it be me, whether it be Goggins. You have that voice in your head, your dad, your mother, saying, get after it, get stronger, push. You're never really alone. And I think, it might be a good segue to some science around,
Let's do it.
loneliness, which we could always talk about. And one thing I want to ask you, really switch gears. You touched a lot about your family, your dad, and talking to him about his health. Do you have your grandparents still around? Have you
Yeah.
talked to them? Yeah.
Yeah. So my grandparents on my mom's side, they're alive and well. And
Great.
my grandpa, dude, I actually did a podcast with him about longevity in Spanish. It's my only episode that I've done.
Oh, that's with him. Cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Dr. Najib Salomon.
Wow.
So he's an eye surgeon and a plastic surgeon, and he came from nothing, absolutely nothing, like
Yep.
super poor. He's a
In
huge
Venezuela.
inspiration for me. Yeah, in Venezuela. His family, his extended family, his mom is native Venezuelan, his dad is Lebanese. So he looks very Lebanese, very
Hmm.
Middle Eastern. No one would
Hmm.
ever think that he's my grandpa, but he is.
Hmm.
And dude, that guy, if there's anyone that knows how to grind
Yeah.
and hustle,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's the biggest hustler I've ever met. And I'll tell you that and we speak about this at length of the podcast. It is in
Hmm.
Spanish though. Um, what he does to keep his mind sharp, because I think today he's 85 or 87.
Wow.
And
God
dude,
bless.
he is so sharp, so brilliant. You know what he does? He learns every single day. He's playing the violin. He's learning. He's taking English classes. Like, he speaks fluently, but he's taking
Hmm.
more advanced classes. He's also learning. I think he has weekly calls with a music group to learn in depth about opera, and
Hmm.
he reads every single day. Like, it's he'll. I had a. It was like a physiology textbook that I bought in my apartment. It was like an electrophysiology textbook, like a
Hmm.
huge textbook.
Hmm.
He was in my apartment one day and just like read like 3 chapters and like started talking to me about it. Like, he's so brilliant. And he told me, um, uh, that's what keeps me young. You have to constantly learn, and it'll keep you young, right?
Has he given you, or go ahead? Yeah, I'll ask you after.
All I was gonna say is
Yeah.
he loves digging into my substance and learning about his health and wellness through my substance, because the element of learning is really there. Like, I've never been someone that likes to kind of just, give away like the what to do or how to do it. Like, I really like to tell people the
Yeah.
why and to build stories into that why to motivate them.
Hmm.
Um, and he's someone that loves to learn. So it makes the perfect, it's the perfect mixture, right? He loves digging away at my content, and it's really helped him get his, get a grip on his health and fitness. He's always been very active.
Hmm.
He plays tennis and swims
Amazing.
um,
Wow.
daily. Like, he's super active. But for example, the fasting has been huge for him. Some of the supplementation, some of the specifics regarding exercise, like rest between sets, and like, it's transformed his health and wellness. He's lost a lot of weight. He feels better, and I like to think that I added several quality years to his health span.
I think that's
So
huge for people out there. I think so many of us, I mean, especially Americans, have unhealthy, unfortunately unhealthy older relatives. And
yeah, and
you,
it's not just
yeah,
about extending. In the U.S., we have the healthcare and the technology to extend lifespan, but lifespan is not the same as health span. People are living longer, but a lot of people are living longer in a hospital. Why would you want? I mean, no disrespect here,
yeah,
but
yeah,
why would you want someone that you care about to live their last years in a hospital? It
yeah.
costs so much money. It's a depressing environment. I hate to say it, but it's a depressing environment. And look, you can invest less time, energy, and finances into your health, fitness, nutrition, and get more quality years out of your life to enjoy
I
with your
just,
loved
how
ones.
do you convince people to do that, especially when they're, in your parents or your grandparents, they don't want to listen to you. I mean, and, also something we should touch on is elderly age. After 80, I'd love to hear your thoughts on self-assisted, taking of one's own life, obviously in a medically supervised manner. I don't know if you've ever spoken about that. Another just kind of curious question and
Yeah.
biohacks for elderly people that have worked for your grandpa. I mean, these are all such interesting subjects, and I think one for me, especially having some illness in my family, I would love to hear how you were able to convince your grandpa was already on the green pill, but
Yeah.
he was curious, but there's other folks that aren't. And so have you heard that from your clients? Have you done it in your personal life? I
Yeah.
think everyone would love to hear that. It's so
Yeah.
key.
Absolutely. And I know that this is what your podcast is going to be all
It
about.
will be.
So I
It will
think,
be.
and I
Yeah.
can do several podcasts on just this topic and
Let's
how
do
it's
it.
worked for my clients, my family. So I think, um, if I get the chance to be on your podcast someday, this is what I want to talk about,
Great.
you know?
Yeah.
And,
Love to have
um,
you. It's,
to,
I'm so curious about this, and I think everyone else is too, so
yeah, because if you can, if there's nothing more rewarding than helping the people in your inner circle, especially your
yes,
family, because you
exactly.
get to spend more quality years with people that
Exactly.
they're
Right. The
blood with you.
ROI there is so high.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is an excuse my French here, but the
Please.
thing about, trying to help your family is that your family knows you so well, they're so comfortable with you that you can try to share your advice and they can just tell you to shut the fuck up,
Yep.
you know? And that was certainly the case with me and my dad. I
Yep.
love my dad to death. Like,
Yep.
we're best friends.
Yep.
But my dad, he's very stubborn. And I would make the effort to try and help him. But here's the thing about my dad, and I think it goes hand in hand with being a man, which is something that we spoke about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, he doesn't like to feel like he needs help, you know?
Interesting.
And so that made it so hard because my dad works so hard, man. And he does
Hmm.
so much like around the house. Like he really does an incredible job at supporting everybody and supporting himself. And the last thing he wants to do after he's a surgeon, he's an eye surgeon.
Yeah, I was going to ask, maybe give some background for folks who haven't heard
Yeah.
that
My dad's an eye
podcast. Yeah.
surgeon. He runs his own practice. So he's also an entrepreneur.
Wow.
Very successful, very satisfied, loves his job.
Hmm.
And it's no fucking joke. He gets home.
Yeah.
He helps people see. Like, he helps blind people regain their sight on a daily basis. He does all kinds of eye surgery. Anyway,
So very serious. Yeah. And rewarding. Right.
very rewarding, very serious. But when he gets home, he's exhausted. He doesn't want to
Right.
train. He doesn't want to, make better decisions about his meals. He look, and maybe he's listening here, and I apologize for sharing this, Papi, but he can be an emotional eater sometimes,
Sure.
and sometimes he doesn't want to go work out. What's really helped him is not being told what to do,
Hmm.
doing more showing than telling. It's something that I
Okay.
keep coming back to, doing more showing than telling. What do I mean by that? My brother and I would train together and have so much fun. We'd get back to the house
Hmm.
and he would just kind of see us and we'd be like, "You should come join us next time." Like,
Hmm.
just the element of fun is there, If you're constantly telling someone what to do, like if someone in your
Yeah.
family is overweight, the last thing you want to tell them is you need to lose some weight. You might be so comfortable with them that you feel that it's appropriate to say that. That's the last thing you want to say because
Yeah.
now they feel like they owe you something or like they need to work out to get your approval and to make you feel
Hmm.
good. Like it's a personal experience. If someone needs to lose weight in your family, don't tell them something like that. You should go, "Hey, why don't we do something together? Like, why don't we?" And don't make it obvious that you want them to work out.
Yeah.
You should be like, "Hey, like, why don't we go for a walk in this beautiful like park? Whatever. Like, just start with something like that. They'll release a little bit of endorphins. You start doing it on a consistent basis. They'll lose some weight. They'll get motivated. They want to do something more. You have to layer these things on,
Interesting.
and
It's a
you never
coaching
want to point
approach. Yeah.
fingers. The last thing you want to do with people in your inner circles that you want to help and inspire. I find that the worst thing you can do is point fingers and make someone feel as if they need help and that they need your help.
Hmm.
Especially if they're stubborn or if they have the ability to tell you to shut the fuck up, like, being your parent or something. My grandpa, my knowledge and passion and his health and wellness go hand in hand because he's very curious. He's a very curious guy, loves to learn, so that just
Hmm.
works. My
Of course.
grandma,
Yeah.
my mom and my grandma, like, my grandma doesn't do any exercise, but she has like perfect blood work somehow. She has messed up genetics, man, like in a good way. Like,
So
that's
these
my
are on your
mom's
mom's
mom.
side, by the way?
Yeah, my mom's mom. My mom,
Yeah.
dude, my
Gotcha.
mom, um, this is funny. My mom, at a very early age, she has never done exercise because at a very early age, she had very poor vision. And it's ironic because her dad is also, my grandpa is also like I mentioned,
Wow.
also an eye surgeon
Yeah.
and plastic
Right.
surgeon.
That's right. Yeah.
My mom had a very poor vision at an early age, like in middle school, high school years. and she didn't really think that was a problem. She thought it was a normal thing. And because
Mm.
she had poor vision and poor coordination as a result, she was intimidated and never
Mm-hmm.
actually engaged in sports. So she was terrible at sports growing up, terrible. She didn't realize she needed glasses until she was like 17. And she has very poor,
Wow.
yeah, very ironic. But anyway, she spent her whole life without doing exercise. And dude, my mom she's thin, lean, beautiful, perfect blood work. Perfect blood work. Perfect. Like
No
just an
exercise.
anomaly, and a
Yeah.
complete anomaly. Recently, though, she started taking up Pilates. I can't tell you why. I think it's because her sister, my aunt, started doing it, and she kind of told my mom. Like I had told my mom, I'll put it this way: I had told my mom throughout my entire life to do exercise, and I invite her to sessions, and we would want to do it with her. She ended up discovering it by herself and fell in love with it on her own.
But maybe you're showing of her over 20 years, 15 years of you and your brother who I met the other day training. Maybe that showing built up a sort of action potential, which then
Yeah,
fired when someone near her did it.
it very yeah that very it could it. I agree. I think what happened was her sister, my aunt, um, she did, I think it was called 40D. I think that's what it's called. It's like a fitness class in Miami. Is it 40D or 42D?
40D
41D? I
Pilates
don't know, something like that.
form. Is it form? No, it's not form.
No, it's
I
like
think
40 something D.
okay.
I can't remember.
I'll have to get
She
his
took the
show
fitness
notes. Yeah.
class in like a couple months, looked great, felt great, inspired my mom,
Yeah.
I think. And yeah, my mom had somewhat of an action potential building up with what she'd seen at home, with us and my dad. And dude, it's crazy. Like another thing that motivated my mom was, she had long haul COVID symptoms that lasted
Okay.
over a year. Still, she hasn't fully regained her sense of smell and taste. She went down the line. She tried everything to regain her smell and taste. She
Right.
tried the intranasal photobiomodulation, the intranasal red light. She tried
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of functional mushrooms. She optimized her sleep. Dude, everything. The
Yeah.
craziest biohacks,
Yeah.
most insane foods and supplements, everything you can name.
Nothing.
Nothing worked. So she finally started to move her body,
Wow.
exercise, and it helped
Wow.
her regain some of her smell and taste, which showed her the influence that exercise actually has on your body. Started producing endorphins and got into it. But now, taking this back and helping the people that they care about, like I said, don't point fingers. Don't make people feel like
Don't
they have a
point fingers.
problem. Engage in something with them that feels friendly and doesn't feel like it's exercise or like you're going out of the way to do it. Do something fun that happens to include physical exertion,
Mm-hmm.
and chances are that'll have enough of an effect to help them take the next steps. You know,
So
there's no
show
reason to
them.
be
Yeah.
extreme. There's no reason to tell people what to do. There's no reason to be rude. There's no reason to fat shame.
Yep.
Make it friendly and have a good time.
Can I give you one quick one on that? If your parents live far away in Virginia or something, what did you do if that was your situation? And then we can jump to some more science questions too.
So if my parents lived far away and I wanted to help them live a
Yeah,
healthier lifestyle,
yeah.
um,
Because I know a lot of adults out there, have adult children have that with their parents.
yeah, they don't live. That's true. I do.
Ship them a BioStrap, a Polynero maybe,
You could honestly, man, that's not a
or
bad
Whoop.
idea because
Yep.
I find that the cool thing about wearables is you can gamify your health in a way. I think Apple has a way. I have never owned an Apple Watch, but I think there's a way where you can like see what your friends are up to, or the activity
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing, whatever. So there's a competitive element to it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can get your parents like a wearable device. I think it humbles a lot of people when you realize that maybe you take way less steps in a day that you think you did. Maybe you're only have a couple thousand steps and you thought you were, I don't know, around 10,000. I don't know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It can really give you some perspective on how many calories you're spending, whatever. Um, it's a great gift. The holiday season is around the corner. I think if your parents are, and then you can also do some remote monitoring. So if you hook them up to like a Heads Up Health, you can hold them accountable by actually seeing their health metrics, which is what I do with my clients, to take a data-driven approach to their health and wellness. But you can do it with your friends and family and see what they're up to. And
Cool.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
just curious. Yeah, your take on that.
I've never been in that position, but I would personally get them something like that.
Yeah, get them something like that. Cool. Well, let's see. We've done silly. We've done family stuff. I know the KYP family. The group we have on WhatsApp. Shout out to everyone there. has a bunch of science questions for you. Just specific biohacks. Does this work? Does this not? So why don't we go down the line if you're down?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep. Do you need a break or anything, or
No, no,
you
no.
good?
I'm good. I'm
Keep cranking.
actually. I was just
Yeah.
thinking. I feel like I'm speaking at 1,000 miles per hour. Um, I know a lot of people. Like when I
Yeah.
listen to podcasts, I will typically
Hmm.
speed them up, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering now if people speed mine up or if they just keep them on the 1x.
Interesting.
I
Good
feel like I'm
question.
speaking very quickly, but
I keep
I'm
yours on
not.
1x, and I was trying to study kind of quote unquote for this, and I still kept it on 1x to be fair. So to answer your question, so
Okay, cool,
that's an
cool.
interesting one. I don't know if I can scratch my ear if you're speaking fast. Have you gotten that feedback from people?
There's some. I've had people tell me that I speak a little too fast sometimes.
Uh huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've thought about this sometimes. I think it's. I feel like maybe sometimes I just have too much to say, or maybe I could be a little more clear and concise. Who knows? But
Hmm.
again, I like to do what feels natural. I'm not gonna
Yeah. Don't
be
worry about it.
somebody else or speak in a different way.
Well,
It
it's
is
like
what it is. What it
it
is.
is what it is.
So I'm
I mean,
sorry for you, for those of you tuning in who aren't satisfied with the speed of, uh, what I'm
speed
saying.
of unjustice speech. Well, let's see. I mean, why don't we start with the kitchen because that's always a good place to start. Abs are
Okay.
made in the kitchen, and so are many other things. Seed oils are all seed oils bad,
Okay.
and are they deleterious? Do they cause inflammation?
Okay. So I enjoy flirting with the borders of controversy,
Let's do it. I'm
and
curious where this is gonna go.
but at the end of the day, this can be controversial for a lot of people. This can be sensitive to a lot of people on either end of the spectrum, whether you see no harm in seed oils or you are a super hardcore carnivore that thinks they're like the worst thing you could ever introduce to your body. I would say that I'm not in the middle. I'm slightly more on the carnivore, and I don't consume any seed oils ever, ever. The only oils that I cook with are high quality extra virgin olive oil,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, you don't want to get the unfiltered stuff.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, you want to make sure it's filtered for olive oil because otherwise the shelf life is like way low. So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people like to get their honey, like the raw, organic, whatever honey. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. It's not the same with olive oil. You'll actually end up getting it'll go rancid. And think about
Rancid.
if you have a big bottle of olive oil, it should last you a couple of months or at least a few weeks. If
Mm-hmm.
you have the filtered stuff, it's not going to last very long. So it's not healthier. Don't get the filtered stuff. Anyway, I either use extra virgin olive oil, organic, extra virgin, or virgin coconut oil. And very rarely I'll use avocado oil. I just with the Evo and coconut, you've got your
You
bases
got
covered
everything
pretty
covered.
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the avocado, you're not. I know it's been big lately. You're not big on it because it's another seed, technically, in the
Oh,
inside, or
honestly, I've never considered it like a. I mean, I don't know if it's technically a seed oil
I don't
or
know.
not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but um, I think it's good. I don't. I'm in Uruguay now, so I don't even think I can find it here. And still, I
Fair.
mean, I love the flavor of Evo. I love coconut oil. For cooking at high
Yeah.
temperatures and for keeping your pans from to keep stuff from sticking to them because of the saturated fat. It's just an incredible oil to cook with. So I honestly, those two for me do it all.
Okay.
Um,
Great. So
as far as the seed
avo or
oils
oil.
themselves,
Yeah.
here's the thing: is the
Okay.
research unfortunately, there isn't enough research to prove that they are bad for your health. Now, there is anecdotal evidence, like you could say, because of this should happen or could happen, and people will um, blow up the proportions, you know, or the effects of some of these seed oils, right? Like it all comes down to the dosage, right? With
Mm.
any toxin, it comes down to the dosage. Like anything can be a toxin, even water can be toxic, And actually, this isn't original. I'm actually speaking. I want to give credit to Lane Norton, who put this very practical. He said, "Look, it's all about the dosing. Anything can be toxic, even water. You can overconsume water and you could die.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
there's a molecule, I forget what it's called, in apples. If you eat too much of it, you die.
Hmm.
Alcohol, you have too much alcohol, you'll like. It all comes down to the dosing. You can have seed oils sparingly, and nothing's going to happen to you. There's more stuff in your environment that I
Mm-hmm.
think could build up and have a more significant effect on your health and well-being than something like seed oils from time to time. Like if you're gonna go, like I go to restaurants. I mean, now I'm going a little more because I'm in a new place, new city I want to explore. But on average, I probably go to restaurants once every 2 weeks. I do a lot of cooking at
Yeah.
home. You never know what's in a
Yeah.
restaurant. You can only hope. Sometimes they lie to you. They don't care. They just want to sell you food. I try to go and get good food, but even at the nicest restaurants, nicest restaurants, they'll use seed oils because they're easy to cook with, they're stable, and they give a nice texture and taste, right? So, look, unless you're cooking all your meals, you're gonna be consuming seed
Yeah.
oils, and unless you're consuming them on a daily basis for every single one of your
Mm-hmm.
meals, uh, I really don't think that the concern is warranted. Now, here's another thing. Here's the other end of this. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite thing that I wanna argue here. I think the movement online right now
Mm-hmm.
against seed oils is warranted. I know that it's extreme, but I
Okay.
think it is warranted because unless it was extreme, it wouldn't actually attract people
Interesting.
and motivate people to eat less of this stuff. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
completely, absolutely avoid and be afraid of these seed oils. You don't, and there simply isn't enough evidence to warrant that fear. Seriously, there is not evidence. There isn't enough evidence to warrant that fear. You could speak mechanistically about things, but there simply isn't enough evidence. But I do appreciate the movements that's being made just to build a general awareness of the harm that they can cause if they're consumed often in copious amounts. At home, in your pantry right now, like one of the best things that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
go to your pantry, toss out the seed oils, and replace them
Mm-hmm.
with extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking most of your meals, that will add up.
Mm-hmm.
Get those high quality oils and discard the rest. And then all those seed oils, the only seed oils that you have to worry about, but actually don't have to worry so much about, are the stuff that you'll find in the restaurant. So that's my take.
Thank you. And what do you put on your body in terms of oil? No, so you hear about these endocrine disruptors and beauty products. Not sure how much you've tapped into that.
You're
You
gonna
know,
have to ask Parker, my girlfriend, about what oil she rubs in my body every night.
yeah,
I'm
I
kidding.
figured we were going there.
I'm
I
joking.
didn't I didn't want to. I set you up a fat pitch down the middle, and you swung. So that's a it's
So
a
what
good
oils
serve.
do I put on my body?
Yeah, I mean, probably coconut oil, I imagine, right? If that's and maybe
I
olive.
feel like I should probably put more oil on my body on a regular basis. I will
Hmm.
sometimes use coconut oil if it's like a really hot sunny day. I will sometimes use coconut oil as like a almost like a natural sunscreen.
Interesting.
Um, yeah,
Have you done a podcast on sunscreen yet? I mean, I
I
think
haven't done it
Way
specifically on
Connolly you
sunscreen.
have
If
for
someone's tuning in and they either know
toxins.
somebody or want to recommend someone that's
Yeah.
an expert in sunscreen, please do. But I had a few people on and we did talk about sunscreen.
Hmm.
Um, One of them was Dr. Aza Halim, who's an anesthesiologist. She's a skin and beauty expert. She's insanely
Hmm.
bright,
Hmm.
super brilliant
So catch that
woman.
one. Yeah.
We spoke about sunscreen, and she has a pretty interesting take on it. Honestly, don't want to go too far in depth here because I recommend tuning into that episode instead. And I had another person on I had someone else on. I think it was a cancer doctor.
Was it okay? Yeah, maybe Dr. Connolly.
Connolly,
Yeah,
Aaron
Connolly.
Connolly. I think
Yeah,
we spoke about skin cancer,
sunscreen and
and
skin
I think she
cancer.
used.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It may not be her. It may be someone else. But um, that's a whole other subject. But anyway, I honestly don't put too many oils on my body. I actually have naturally pretty oily skin, so my skin never really
Hmm.
gets dry ever.
Hmm.
Um, if I don't drink enough water, my forehead gets like covered in oil. So that's
Mm.
and actually a good way for those who experience something similar. It's a good way to tell that you're not properly hydrated. Your the oils in your face will start to come out to compensate for the dryness in the skin. Um, so yeah, my skin is pretty. I honestly think that with good hydration and a good healthy diet and eating a lot of good healthy fat, that's what I do. Instead of putting it on my body, I eat
You eat
a
it.
lot of super high quality fat, a lot of saturated fat, and a lot of cholesterol. And my blood work is you know perfect.
Awesome.
That's the cholesterol and saturated fat in your diet is not the enemy. So um, I find that helps keep my skin very elastic. I actually spoke about that with Dr. Azza Halim. We spoke about the influence of cholesterol and saturated fat in your diet and how important it is for your skin health and for the elasticity in your skin and the general health of your skin. Exercise too will really help to give your skin elasticity, and it'll bring up fresh blood to the skin, which gives it, which really helps to clean it and keep it healthy. So I don't really rub too many oils on my body. Or
I guess in some of these beauty products, some preservatives or uh, yeah, I guess they're preservatives, parabens, and the like are said to be disruptors to the endocrine system because they go through the epithelial layer, and epithelial layer is quite permeable, and so yes, there's the cream in there, there's the oil that you want to hydrate your skin or to keep your wrinkles away, or whatever it is, but then it comes with this package of other things, and I'm not sure how well understood it is in the research there, so might be a deep dive for another time.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is I have very
Hmm.
recently made this shift to wear only cotton.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, yeah, and because I used to wear, the Lululemon, whatever, like,
Hmm.
polyester,
Yep.
and yeah, it's an endocrine disruptor, and there is a lot of good science to back that up. There are studies that show that it can lower testosterone, it can increase estrogen. It's the polyester. I could be wrong here, but I think the way that it works is it has I think it mimics, I think the molecule or something, it mimics estrogen, or it's very similar to
Hmm.
estrogen. So it has an estrogenic effect. Look, this isn't my strong suit, but I recently tuned into a podcast. I think it was a podcast. It was Max Lugavere. He had an expert on, who's very well versed in this stuff, and in in estrogen and BPA's and
Hmm.
whatever. I forget her name, but that's an incredible episode. I think it's a recent episode too, so it's probably easy to look up. Um, but yeah, I recently made the shift. Now, this isn't an ad. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I recently found two clothing brands that are awesome, like
Hmm.
cotton shirts that are a great fit for people with a muscular build. So,
Okay.
I have a pretty wide neck for my build. I have very wide shoulders, so it's not like if I wear a regular cotton shirt, I look like an idiot. Like the neck is way too small and my shoulders are too wide, so the ends, like the
Yeah, they're
cuffs,
just flaring out.
like
Yeah.
flare out. So I look like an
Yeah.
idiot. I look like a scarecrow.
Too swole. Yeah. No, it's just genetic. That's your build. No, I get it. So you look like
So,
a scarecrow. So what are the two you
so
like?
the two brands, I think I'm wearing one of them.
I cannot see it. Can you see it?
I think maybe it's down here. Hold on, let me go run and grab two because I don't know what the other
Okay.
brand is. So I might as well go and check both of them out.
Yeah,
Be
do
right
it.
back.
Do it.
Alrighty, so two brands, dude. I found these recently, and I literally threw out like 90% of all my shirts, and I bought a bunch of these. And
Dang.
I've learned to be more of a minimalist with my clothing since I'm traveling so much nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally, and the cool thing about these shirts is they can be very casual, but they can also work
Mm-hmm.
for like a more like you can wear them to like go out to like a nice restaurant, but you can also wear them to
Mm-hmm.
just like hang out. They're super high quality.
Interesting.
They like drape over you. They're very nice shirts. They're
You have sold me
fresh,
on these shirts.
dude.
You have sold me on the
I
shirts.
swear to God, best purchase that I made this year. I'm not even
It's a
kidding.
big statement. That's a
I
big statement.
swear to you, dude. I've spent thousands of dollars on,
Stuff.
red light
Yeah.
panels, whatever the
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I shit you not, best investment that I've made because I feel
Dang.
great in them, I look great in them, and they are healthy. They're high quality, and these brands are also very sustainable. So
Can't beat it.
super fucking happy with these shirts. Honestly, I hope that they sponsor me because I
Yeah,
can
you're
do
like, give me the
podcasts
shirts
and
at the top
tons
of
of
the
content.
podcast.
Yes, exactly. So the brands are, one of them is Onno, ONNO.
Oh no.
It's made from 70% viscose from organic bamboo, 30%
Bamboo.
organic cotton.
Huh.
The one that I'm wearing right now is a brand, probably what I prefer. Onno's really
Mm-hmm.
cool, but what fits me better and feels better for me, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's WYR, so like WYR,
Hmm.
WYR. And I think it's like
WYR.
95% Egyptian cotton and like I think there is some polyester, but it's like 5%. So to me, going from like 100%
Yeah.
polyester down to
Yeah. Yeah.
5% with high quality cotton, That's good enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll take that, and it's just a guaranteed good
Let
look.
me
It's like a Steve Jobs roll out of the house. You're good,
look.
kind
I'm
of
gonna
thing.
show you. I'm gonna show on video what the shirt looks like.
Do
So
it.
you have look at what it has. It's got this little thing here.
Ooh, you got the V, the down V.
Yeah. And dude,
That's new.
it's a it's a
Not too
great
low, not too long. Yep, not too short.
like
It's got the biceps, but not, it's not
straps out
outrageous.
nicely,
You know, it's a
dude.
Miami shirt, but it's not a Vegas shirt.
And I have it in like an olive color. I have like a like a white, like a pale white. Oh my god, like they're just awesome.
They're gonna sponsor you, and or they're gonna clip this and send it.
I'm cool with it. Let me go
Yeah,
on their website just to fact check this because
you gotta
I
tell
want to
us
make sure.
what size you're wearing as well, and
I'm
you're
wearing a medium.
five,
I'm
and you're about
5'9",
5'9",
170.
180, 170. Okay.
Damn, you think I'm 180? You think I look that big, dude?
Dude, someone told me I was 180 the other day, and I was very blessed.
You were flabbergasted.
I felt great. I was like, man, probably 170 on a good day.
Let's see. All right, look. Oh my god, it's not even polyester. And I don't know if this is bad or not, but it's all right. It's 95% Egyptian Giza cotton and 5% lycra.
Lycra. I don't even know
Yeah,
what lycra is made of. It sounds like a cat.
yeah. And so let's see. It's all right. So this shirt that I'm wearing now, the worst shirt, it feels heavy, and it's
Interesting.
30%
Yeah,
heavier
it's
than
like,
the average t-shirt,
yeah.
because of the fabrics that they use. So when you put it on, you feel, dude, it like wraps around. It's not like a tight shirt,
Yeah,
but
it's not
the way that it's
it's not
made,
like a
it
yeah.
like perfectly fits like a tapered body,
Yeah.
and it feels good on you, bro. I swear to God, I put the shirt on and I feel better, more confident, ready. Like I know I look great and I feel great. Oh my God, I'm ready
Yeah.
for it. Because I've
I gotta
had
get
shirts
one of these
in the
shirts.
past that any fit guy puts on a tight t-shirt and they kind of feel better about themselves, but then you look like a
Oh yeah.
douchebag. These
Yeah,
shirts like
100%.
you look like you look good.
A
You look
fit non-douchebag. You look
yeah,
good. Everyone knows you're fit, but it's
not
not the
douche.
only thing you care about. Yeah.
Exactly,
You have a
exactly.
brain. You might have a brain.
Exactly.
There's a chance that this guy has a brain
Exactly.
where it's like if you're wearing the tight, it's like, oh man.
I've trust me, I've owned all the tight shirts and never. You think you look good and you think you look like a
You
beast.
never it's like no, I'm
This
trying to
does
think of a
not.
good analogy.
Yeah.
It's like when you wear really crazy glasses or something, or you got gold chains. Like you look silly.
Yeah, it's not our thing. We like to let people we like when people know and recognize that we have a brain beyond our muscle.
Yes. Like sometimes we throw on glasses just to look, even smarter. Blue light glasses during the day. Some very famous people wear them. Tell me about those. Yes,
Okay.
no, why not? You got 30 seconds.
Okay. No, I went to the biohacking conference 2 years ago. Saw what I presume were wannabe biohackers that were
Yep.
wearing their dark amber tinted blue light blocking glasses in the middle of the day. They are
During the day.
ruining their circadian rhythm because you need blue light to motivate you and get your cortisol levels high enough to get you focused and energized to do things you need to do throughout the day. You want blue light during the day. You want, especially from the sun. You want to
Bang.
block out blue light when the sun goes down so that you give your brain the message that it is time to produce melatonin and let the cortisol levels fall.
No
So
blue light glasses during the day.
if anything, I wear Raw Optics. I think they're the best brand. Use my code Andrés P or Andrés 10. I forget what it is. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I like to use. I have the dark amber tinted ones for bedtime. During
Uh-huh.
the day, if I'm spending a long time looking at my computer and I have that narrowed tunnel vision,
Yep.
there's a lot of blue light in my face. I'll wear like it's like a lighter version of them. It's kind of like yellow.
Sort of what would you call that real quick for the audience, and we'll jump to the next one. It's
They're like
strain blocking glasses. They help your
yeah,
computer
yeah.
strain.
It's
Yeah.
gonna. I find that it reduces some of the eye strain, and like I'm sure everyone here tuning in knows what it feels like to be blasted by blue light, staring at a
Yes.
screen for like 3
Yes.
hours.
So you want to turn some of it off, but you don't want to put yourself in night mode.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Or I'll use them as a transition. Like if I'll use them as the sun is going down. Like I wear my really dark amber tinted ones, like the red
Mm-hmm.
ones.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'll put those on for 30 minutes before bed and they like knock me out. Like at this point,
That's
they
so
work
nice.
really well. So if I put
So
those
nice.
on like as the sun is going down,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get me so tired. I'm gonna end up going to bed way earlier than I want.
Mm-hmm.
So mean, sometimes it's advantageous, sometimes it's not. Typically, I'll use the lighter ones as a transition.
Okay. Baldness and hair regrowth. Myths around that, and myths around testosterone.
Okay, so
What's the silliest things you hear? What are people spreading on their heads
I know a
that
lot
you've
of.
heard?
So honestly, I don't have too much experience with that. But what I will say is, I have a client, one of my best clients that I've gotten very, very close to over the past few years. I'm actually helping him start a company and his own brand now because of the experience that we had. Well, it was part of this company he's starting. Dude, he had alopecia
Mm-hmm.
and he lost every
Spots.
single hair on his body.
Every single hair.
Every single hair on his body, his eyebrows, eyelashes, every hair on his head, everything. And this was, dude, very early on in his college years. So you
Wow.
can imagine. I mean, imagine you're living a normal life. You're going to college, and you've
Bang.
lost all your hair. Like, it's going to be super hard to make friends and to go out. Like, you
Yeah.
lost your confidence. You can't really talk to girls. It's tough. It really, really, really worked him, man. And I had the chance to help him establish very healthy habits. So one thing that we discovered, I'm not going to mention his name. I'm sure I'll have
Yeah.
him on the podcast soon, because he wants to collaborate with me now. Dude, I helped him regain his hair. Something that doctors said was impossible to do without medication, or even with medication. Like, so the chances were super slim. He left the medication because it wasn't working for him. It was only making his symptoms
What'd you
act up.
do?
Dude, we realized that one of the worst, one thing that was we narrowed it down to what's responsible for this.
Mm-hmm.
We realized it had a lot to do with his nicotine consumption. He was smoking
Interesting.
vapes. He was like vaping and smoking and nicotine, and that plus the stress of being in school and in a relationship that he was having a hard time with, and
Mm-hmm.
it just had an inflammatory effect that gave him essentially alopecia. Now, of course, it's a lot.
Leaky gut.
I'm
Yeah.
generalizing the experience.
Sure.
It was, there was a lot of things involved, a lot of different mechanisms, but basically, he did not expect to get his hair back. I helped him establish a healthy lifestyle, and I helped him get off the nicotine. I helped him really find the lifestyle that allowed his body to, well, not just me. There was a couple experts that were working on his case.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man,
Overall lifestyle, though.
we helped him
Overall body. Yeah.
major lifestyle
Cut down
shifts.
inflammation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can. So okay, good. And we can just cut this real piece out. I want to keep it a little quicker because I want to get these things in. Yeah. If you want to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Sorry.
If you
I'll
wanna
go
do
for it. Yeah.
No, please don't say sorry. I just lost it. Let me think. Okay. We could do just a sec. You got any silly biohacking myths? I got a few questions for you, but you got any silly ones that come up, and then we'll hit them.
Well, I recently tweeted something. I said a lot of the biohacking bros are treating themselves like Drosophila, which is the scientific name for a fruit fly, because they're applying research that is so new that it
Yeah.
hasn't even been done on humans.
Yeah.
And it's just alluding to the silliness of some of the biohacks that we see. It's like such novel science, such new science that
Mm-hmm.
like, does it even work? Like,
Mm-hmm.
some people will like cherry pick studies to have some kind of interesting effect, and they'll assume that
Yeah.
they can see a similar effect just by running something at home.
So like
So
justifying anything that they do with a biohack or with a fruit
yeah, and they
study,
think, oh
fruit
yeah,
fly
I'm getting
study.
healthier. Like, dude, you're just like
Oh man.
being a weirdo.
Okay, so we got that one. We got baldness, and hair loss. Let's say that's a big one. Let's see microbiome in your mouth and vaping. So we could touch on microbiome in your mouth and other mucus membranes in the body. Do you hear about that a lot? Do you see people using mouthwash just killing their oral microbiome?
Yeah.
My
So
understanding from the guys at Bristol Health is don't do that.
yeah.
Probably don't
So I'm not
recommend
an
to do that
expert in
either.
this, and I do want to have actually recently I was recently doing a podcast with a friend of mine who's in dental school at Boston University. We were talking about the relationship between the health of your oral health and systemic health. And the link is there, and there's a very strong link, because there's a like if you have poor microbiome in your mouth, you're not going to
Yeah,
have the right
stuff will get
mechanisms
down.
to digest certain foods, and it can contribute to illness on the line. And then that's like a positive feedback loop. If you're not taking care of your oral health, you're eating crap, it's going to make everything else tougher. It's going to make everything work. Uh, um, you know, Systemically, things aren't going to work out smoothly, and it'll only further the detriment on your oral health. So it's a positive feedback loop. And there's a very strong link, very well established in research, between something like, diabetes and poor oral health, being overweight, etc.
Hmm.
Now, as far as the mechanisms, I would say wait until that podcast comes out,
Hmm.
because I'm not the expert,
Hmm.
but there definitely is a link. In fact, maybe I can have my mom on. She's a dentist and she's familiar with these effects as well. But yeah, and then the whole thing about the mouthwash, Listerine um, has alcohol, and it like dries out your mouth. So it
Hmm.
actually over time will make your oral health worse by drying out your mouth, and it kills the good bacteria that are there. There's a lot of really good bacteria that are there doing an awesome job at keeping your organism healthy. So why would you nuke them with something like that?
Hmm.
If you're someone that feels like you need to use Listerine, odds
Hmm.
are you should probably do other things that benefit your oral health. Like maybe you're not
Floss.
brushing correctly,
Yeah.
you're not flossing, maybe you're eating very highly processed or foods
Sugary.
that are full of sugar or refined sugar. That's gonna decrease the pH in your mouth, lead to cavities, lead to the tar buildup. So worsening your oral microbiome. So if you need Listerine, odds are you should be doing other things to improve your oral health. And using Listerine is going to make things worse. Maybe in the moment it'll give you fresher
Hmm.
breath, but over time, huge no.
Hmm. Let's think some other. Thank you. Let's think some other biohacking myths that are coming. I mean, dosage is one, but it's not a fun one. But yeah, people sitting in an ice bath for 2 hours, it might be a little high on the dose.
Well, one
Let's.
biohacking myth that I'm sure a lot of people are already familiar with, but I'll emphasize is don't do cold exposure after exercise. Unless
Hmm.
you're in the NFL and you have back-to-back games, and you
Hmm.
need to decrease the
It's a great
inflammation
one.
because otherwise it's going to limit your range of motion or performance or whatever. There's no reason why you should be exposing yourself to the cold, which is going to decrease the inflammatory response that helps drive hypertrophy, um, for example, or it could produce a significant enough sympathetic response that can take away from something like your sleep. You know, you want to do cold exposure previous to exercise or maybe on a rest day, but not after exercise.
That's a great one. Yeah, I think a lot of people out there didn't know that. Doing that. Okay, sauna. You see people nowadays in Miami taking spin bikes into saunas for 20-minute sessions. Yeah, right. And they're probably listening to a podcast at the same time as they are putting red light on themselves. And
Yeah, some people really
wow, what
overdo
else?
it. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the sauna, especially if it's a red light sauna, red and infrared,
Yep.
that is going to help you make more gains. The
To
element of
promote
heat,
rest. Yeah.
yeah, the element of heat is going to be hugely beneficial to help drive blood and vasodilate you, help drive blood to the tissues. The infrared and red light are going to help with mitochondrial biogenesis, just general cell health. Your muscles and your bone. Very, very good. But yeah, some people overdo it. Like if I spend 5 more minutes than I should in the sauna, I notice immediately that night because I can't sleep. My core body temperature is too high, and I'm in too
Hmm.
much of a sympathetic state. I got too hot to the point where it's
Hmm.
really stressful on my organism, to the point where my cortisol levels have skyrocketed. But really, I think the biggest influence is the core body temperature. Because if you're working out late and then you're doing sauna, your core body temperature is going to get so high that you're not
Hmm.
going to get the decline that you need that actually
Hmm.
helps to initiate sleep. So a lot of people think falling asleep is about melatonin levels. Like, yeah, that is why you feel sleepy and it helps you get deeper sleep. But what actually initiates sleep in the body is a decline in your core body temperature. And you need to decline past a certain point. And if your core body temperature has been elevated because you either worked out super late or you did a workout and sauna or you just did sauna for a very long time at night, you're not going to get deep sleep. You're gonna be restless the next day.
Yeah, and the sleep latency time to falling asleep will be longer. You'll be laying there rolling. You
Yeah.
might have some cramps as well
Like
if
if
you're not
if you have
hydrated.
to do that, I would recommend taking a cold shower after, even though it's not the
Yeah.
best thing now because now you're introducing cold. Like you have to kind of
Yeah.
like level things out. It's not worth it. Do it either early or in the middle of the day, and that'll be consistent with your cortisol spike early in the day as well. So you could
Nice.
take advantage of that.
Okay, so sauna good, but not too much. The dosage important both on that and
Dosage
cold
and time
plunge
of
as well
day,
as
yeah.
timing, dosage, timing, and medium context. Let's see. How about have you heard of these really shortened and compressed workouts, 5-10 minutes on a bike, like Carol C.A.R.O.L and similar workouts, which purport to give you the same benefits as a 45-minute HIIT class, but in 10 minutes?
As far as giving you the same effect as a 45-minute exercise session, like, what effect are you talking about? Are you talking about caloric expenditure? Because that can be consistent, but you're going to be working two completely different
Right.
systems for, let's say, substrate utilization. Because when you're doing a 45-minute workout, objectively speaking, you're going to be building more endurance than you are with a 5-minute compressed workout. You know, the 5-minute compressed workout is really going to work your phosphagen system, right? You're going to be using up all your fucking creatine. You're going to be really using up a ton of glucose, but you're not going to be, when you do something like a 45-minute class, you're going to be working the phosphagen system a little less, more so the glucose, and then definitely more the fatty acids. So, um, the intensity, you can't maintain the intensity that you can manage in 5 minutes is not like the intensity that you can manage in 45 minutes. 45 minutes, you have to be at a lower intensity by definition. Um, and so you end up working a different system. So
Mm-hmm. Different systems there.
it's, I'll put it this way. As far as calories, like you can match the calories when it comes down to EPOC or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. By compressing the workout and making it very, very intense for 5 minutes, you end up consuming such a high amount of oxygen, stressing your system to the point that over the next 48 hours, to recover from that exercise, you end up burning a ton of calories. So the amount of oxygen that you're consuming to repair those cells, to repair the damage that you created, is so much that you end up burning a ton of calories, not just with that 5 minutes, but it's more so the next 48 hours.
After.
In the 45-minute workout session, because you can't, with 45 minutes, you can't maintain such a high intensity. It's going to be at a lower intensity. Throughout that class, you'll burn more calories, but you're going to burn less in the epoch. So overall, they can burn similar calories. And so if it comes down to calories, sure, it can be similar effects. Like you might see the same, let's say, weight loss or similar weight loss, right? In my opinion, what should people do? Keep things fun, keep things interesting, keep things different. Do your Tabata sets on a day where you have very high recovery, because generally it's going to be a much more stressful workout. Do the 45-minute a couple times a week to really build up your cardiovascular system. And they're going to have a lot of overlapping benefits too, But if you're
From the
looking
longer
for,
workout.
yeah, if you're looking to really build your power, build your cardiovascular, like your VO2 max, do the 5. I mean, they can have similar effects. Again, I don't want to get too nitpicky, but they can have similar effects. I think the combination is going to be the best.
Combination. And yeah, just speaking off the podcast for a second, I'll have to look into the science behind Carol, because I'm not sure if it's 10 minutes at your highest intensity or they've designed some other manner of challenging the body that's not like throw up 100% aerobic exercise.
I think it's like a scaled Tabata almost. It's like because I did it once.
You did? Okay.
Actually at the same packing conference where I saw people wearing blue light blockers like during the day. But it's like you get on and it was like a minute or 3 minutes, something like super short. But it progressively gets more intense to the point where for like the last 30 seconds, you're like going as hard as you can. So you get like a bit of a warm up, but you really like exert yourself, and it's the epoch after that. It's the epoch. It's
that's where you get the calorie
that's where you
burn.
really burn the calories.
Cool.
You're not going to burn
Nice.
600 calories in 5 minutes. You're just not.
It's not happening. Okay, it's a good one for folks getting popular. Well, maybe one more for you, and so taking sun, right, and going out into the sun naked. Let's leave it at that. Popular now. You see it on Instagram.
Sunning your
people
balls?
doing it. Sunning your balls. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't done too much of that. I haven't looked at the science in depth either, but I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? You definitely want to get sunlight on your body. Beyond the vitamin D, it's gonna lead to really good blood flow, warmth. There's so many benefits to sunlight. Do
So
you need to get it on your testicles for optimal health? I don't think so. I think it's one of these radical like health nut things that just kind of like, for absolutely makes sense that something like that went viral, right? It's
makes
just so
sense.
ridiculous. Um, you're not better than anybody because you sun your balls. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay,
If you want to sun
that's
your
I think,
balls, do it. Like I'm
but you're not
sure
better.
your balls will feel better. I'm sure there's some benefits. I'm sure that vasodilation, because of
Yeah,
the warmth and
yeah,
infrared that you're getting to your genital area, I'm
yeah.
sure that's gonna feel awesome, and you can say that it's great. And plus, I think the best thing about it is
Get to
when you're
tell everyone you're
naked
amazing.
with, let's say, your partner, or even by yourself, and you look in the mirror, or your partner is gazing upon your body and admiring your, you know, aesthetics, they're not going to see a pale pelvic area. Okay. You don't
That's
want a
right.
pale pelvic area.
You just don't want
You
that.
don't want PPA. I think that's a new acronym
PPA.
that we can leave
If you
people
heard it
with.
here, folks,
You don't want PPA.
get out there and fight against PPA because
Yeah.
it's probably the
You don't
biggest
want
factor.
BPA or PPA.
No PPA, no PPA. Well, on that note, man, this has been great. I think the audience has learned a lot about you that they don't know. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on and giving me a chance to answer a lot of my questions. And I think there's a lot to take away here. So we'll certainly have to do it again
Dude,
soon. And anything you want to close out with?
all I want to say is, my man, like, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much. This is a huge opportunity for me because I get the chance to connect with you, which is something that I've been looking forward to for so long. And I get to share on a personal level the things that really have helped me and worked for me. Because, I feel like I end up asking the experts that I have on, I ask them and I learn so much from them. But I think sometimes it feels good to be able to share from your experience because it can help maybe someone in a similar position, and it feels good to express yourself. At the end of the day, people love
Yes.
talking, and that's actually another thing. Another word of advice: when you have a mentor, someone that you want to connect with, um, give them the chance to talk. A great way to take the attention off of yourself is give them a chance to talk. Ask them a specific question, but make sure that they get the chance to talk about something that they're excited about. So that's actually another little hack, and I'll go on a tiny little tangent here.
Do it.
I wanted to connect with one of the admissions counselors for a graduate program that I'm applying for. At the end of the day, they're one of the peak decision makers for, enrollment. And I was like, how am I going to connect with an admissions counselor, like, without kissing ass? You know what I mean? So I ended up asking her questions about her experience, and instead of asking like, I don't, basically, I'll give you one of the questions. I asked her, like, what were some of the most ridiculous things you've had to deal with as an admissions counselor? Like, what are some of the most ridiculous requests they've had to like manage? Because I'm sure people sent her all kinds of weird shit. And she just kind of like laughed with me. I was like a little nervous because like if I say something stupid or something wrong, like
Mm-hmm.
she's gonna see my application. But anyway, this
100%.
turned out to be a very funny, very silly interaction, and she had fun telling me. And the way that I kind of framed it and my attitude with her, I gave her the chance to just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. She ended up having a great time. I ended up laughing with her, and at the very end of the conversation, she said, "Hey, you know what? I hope that you get into our program." And I was like, "Wow." Like,
Hmm.
that's awesome. And it's just because you get to connect to somebody, you give them the chance to talk. So thank you for giving me the chance to be silly, to open up. It's been a pleasure. Um, and yeah, I hope that someone, even if it's one person, I hope that one person took something away from this conversation.
Agreed. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, and it's a great experience to finally, connect on this. So,
Yeah. And I look forward to being on your show, my man.
thanks, man. Can't wait. It's gonna be
Awesome.
soon. So, stay tuned for that. Thank you, man.
Awesome. What's the name of your podcast?
Green pilled. So it's all
Cool.
about how health practitioners actually talk to their family, their friends, their loved ones, as well as their own experiences on how they've spread the word to the people closest to them, not just their patients and their clients and their network.
Cool.
Green pilled.
Cool.
Looking forward to it, man. So I think you green pilled a lot of people today.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's the dream.
Oh,
Awesome.
wow.
Well, there we go. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you all for tuning in.